and welcome to episode 22 of Wowhead Weekly. Wowhead Weekly is sponsored by Full Sail University. If you've ever considered working behind the scenes to create video games, Full Sail University offers programs that can prepare you for a future in the industry. Whether you're interested in coding, art, producing, or mobile game development, there's a game degree program at Full Sail University that can teach you the tools, technology, and workflow used by today's studios. Full Sail University has offered game programs for more than a decade, and graduates have worked on titles such as Grand Theft Auto, the Call of Duty series, Assassin's Creed, and many more. Full Sail students receive a laptop along with game industry software at a deep institutional discount, and Full Sail University also offers a variety of campus and online degrees in fields related to the entertainment and media industry. You can visit fullsail.edu/wowweekly to learn more. Okay, so this week we have got a ton of cool stuff to talk about. We've had a lot of news, which is why we've done 2 shows in 1 week, which, trust me, it's not been easy. But of course, first I have to welcome my co-host, Wowhead site manager, and everything extraordinaire, Perculia. Perk, we have had one heck of a busy week this week, haven't we?
Yeah,
it's been insane.
It's definitely good that we have the 2 shows this week.
Yeah, indeed.
Not just catch up, we have so much news that have to go into them.
Yeah, exactly. So we normally record this on a Friday to do it for Saturday. Like, we post it on Saturday, record it on Friday. And actually, we owe you an apology, because we did say when we recorded the show on Monday that we posted on Tuesday that was exactly what we were going to do. But unfortunately, with PTR builds and then the patch notes on the Friday afternoon, we just had such a busy day. We were both shattered. Like, I was working on another project for other ZAM staff that took up most of my day, and I was just like, Perk, I'm so tired. Do you want to do the shows? So we thought
I didn't want to, because we got all the sound files in for the jukebox,
man.
Which we'll touch upon once we but I'm like, I need to post this, I can't do the show. We have
exactly,
really cool
things. We wanted to get all this cool stuff out on the site, so we were just like, oh, okay, let's record it on the Saturday. So here we are, it's Saturday, we both had some sleep, we're both a little bit more perky, so it's a good day to do the show. And obviously we've just got a ton of stuff that we wanted to talk to you guys about, so it's great that we've actually got the 2 shows available this week. So obviously the first big thing that we wanted to hit on was the Blood Elf models.
Yeah.
Now they finally went up on the PTR, so I know that everyone's been super excited to see them after the initial Artcraft teaser was posted a few months back. But so now that they're there, what do you think? What's your take on them, Perk?
I really like how my Blood Elf alt looks. I think she looks sort of very sassy and regal. I know that there's some really funny, awkward poses, though. She looks scary in the barbershop, but I like what they've done for the most part. I think her face looks pretty nice, even though I know they're going to do further tweaks to them in other builds.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I actually main a Blood Elf these days. My main is a Blood Elf Paladin. And so I have to say, like, I've copied her several times on the PTR in different transmogs to try out different transmogs that I've been buying on the auction house. But I really like how she looks. I'm really glad, and I know Perk is the queen of night elves, but I'm really glad that they didn't do the thing that they have the spiky eyebrows, and I'm just so glad that they kept the eyebrows into that thin spike rather than making them kind of shaggy like they did with the night elf ones. Like,
yeah, it seems that they didn't do a ton of changes. There were just sort of very subtle tweaks, while with night elves it's like, let's just totally change like the ratio of their arms to their torso and head.
There's definitely been some big... I think they're a little bit more meaty. They look a bit more like they maybe have been working out a little bit in the break between the new and old models. But I don't think that that's a problem, honestly. I think they just sort of... They look great. It's kind of my main opinion for them. The eyes are super good. I think like the difference, like the old model, you have a very obviously kind of like a Draenor. You have the eye, which is there's no difference between the pupil and the rest of the eye, and now you've got actually a defined pupil and some tiny elements of the sides of the eyes. And I personally love that change. I think the eyes look super expressive. There's been a lot of people actually saying that this is the best model revamp that they've seen, and I mean
they've gotten a lot of feedback, so I think that makes sense.
Definitely, I think maybe they've just been able to sort of say, okay, so we've seen that people like this, but they don't like that so much.
Yeah, like this is going too far, even if it's, accurate, so let's just tweak things slightly and have it fit the fantasy image that the players want.
Definitely, and I think like the Blood Elves were one of the 2 models, definitely along with the Draenor, that were in a pretty good spot already, having been introduced in the Burning Crusade rather than right at the start of the game. And they're also, obviously, I think with the humanoid models, it's a little bit easier to make them look sort of in line with expectations.
Although, I mean, we had the male humans with their gigantic nipples and
the salami nipples. That was a bit weird. But yeah, I think that they look really good. I think there's some faces that are definitely going to need a little bit more work and a little bit more love, but that's always going to be the case with these revamps. And definitely the barbershop dirt face is fairly hilarious. But it's important to add that if you want to look at your blood elf, like not just our default blood elf pick from our model viewer, you can actually look at your personal blood elf by going to wowhead.com/list, LIST, and you can go there and you can actually just pull up your personal model and then make sure that the Warlords option is selected from the right hand drop down. And then you'll obviously have the Warlords one there, and there's a left-hand drop-down as well, which allows you to view different animations. And I don't know about you, Perk, but I've been super happy to see a ton of people using this feature and posting up the screenshots.
Like Tumblr and Twitter has just been all of people's blood elves in with really funny emotes and poses. So I was really thrilled to see that, because that tool, we did a lot of work revamping Miss Pandaria, so I'm super happy people liked it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just really nice, I think, for people to, like, obviously anyone can get the PTR. Anyone is, like, it's not like the beta where you have to be invited to it. But I think it's just a lot easier for people rather than downloading a whole other copy of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, like, and character copies can be broken, and if you have, like, 10 blood elves, that might be risky, but you can just, you know, pull up everything on Wowhead and then, like, change their transmogs and do all sorts of fun stuff.
Exactly. Now, actually, that's a good point. A bunch of people had been asking me how on Wowhead they can equip different gear without going back into the game. They have to make a custom list, is that right?
Yeah, so we made this easier. So if you do all the steps to see your in-game character, there will be this orange button underneath your character's name that says convert to custom. And that means that it turns into a customized version of the page, so you can then change the gear in your little paper doll area.
Right, so it's really as simple as that. Hunt down that orange button and that will allow you to change stuff and look at your guy, your lady with different gear on. Yeah. So, but yeah, the Blood Elf models, I think they're great. I actually haven't seen any complaints. There was a funny image that someone, I think it was Pets of Warcraft, made a while back where they'd done some photoshopping and sort of pulled her jaw upwards and inwards. But I think they look fantastic. I have no objection to the face shape right now.
Yeah, I think seeing them in motion really helps. I mean, the art craft is only for one body type and one face and one set of hair. So I'm really happy to see them. And I'm like, oh, I really, like, this Blood Elf feels truer to my character concept than some of my Night Elf alts.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a really, really good model. I think this one, they've really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
But anyway, we shouldn't talk about the Blood Elf for the entire show. We've got a bunch of other stuff to hit. So the next one is a kind of another sort of, I don't know, like a silly vanity item. Well, the definition of a vanity item.
Speaking of faces and
speaking of faces, I've been taking selfies of my Blood Elf this morning using the Selfie Camera. So did we mention this? No, I don't think we did mention this in the last show.
No, this was the data mining on Thursday.
Right. There's been so much, like, this is often a problem which Perk and I had, is there's so much data mining that I failed to remember which day it happened on. But yeah, so how do we get it? So Perk, you've actually got one, and I got one this morning, and I haven't had time to take. I've taken a couple of selfies of my Blood Elf, but alas, they haven't been put up on the site yet. But how do you go about getting it?
So there are new missions on the PTR, and they're not rare, so they should be pretty easy to get, and 100% success chance. And they just show up in your mission log, and the very first mission rewards a selfie camera. And if you're lucky to get the follow-up mission, it gives you an item to upgrade your selfie camera to a more deluxe version of it. So just hope that the mission shows up and it takes 4 hours and you get your camera.
Yeah, I've copied a bunch of paladins and finally got one that had the camera mission on it. There doesn't seem to be anything that you can do to particularly provoke the mission into appearing.
Right.
It's just like you will either get it or you won't. But it's not a rare mission. I've seen a bunch of people talking about how they've got the selfie camera. Well, it's called field photography, so it's not called the selfie camera mission, but you'll see it because it's got a little camera icon in the rewards section. And the upgraded version gives filters, which we also data mined, which have got obvious tooltip text, but we haven't actually been able to test them yet to see exactly what they do.
I made a bunch of characters hoping that they would proc the second mission, but they haven't. But basically, there's something called a death filter, a black and white filter, and a sketch filter. So I guess you can Instagram your selfies
we've all been on Instagram, so I think we've probably all got a fairly good idea of what those do. So it's a pretty cool feature if you like taking pictures of your character, and I know I do. But there's some Twitter integration side to it as well, I think.
Yeah, my Bashiok was saying on Twitter that he's like, oh, the selfie camera, this just perfectly fits in with our Twitter integration idea where we encourage you to take
Ah,
screenshots in game. And we should also mention
interesting.
that these aren't just like, oh, it's a tool with a
Right.
fancy button that lets me just take a screenshot. Your
Yeah.
character does these really funny things.
Yeah.
When the selfie camera mode is enabled, it does duck face.
It
It
sort of
has
does
like
like
the
a,
MySpace dramatic angle off to the
yeah.
side.
It's really funny.
Their arm is off to the side like they're holding a
Yeah.
camera.
And it seems to automatically remove the interface for you as well. So, you know, like when
Yeah.
we talk about people putting screenshots up on Wowhead, we always ask you to remove your UI so that we don't see that, like, you know, the big old interface there getting
Right.
in the way. It does that for you automatically, because I was messing around with it just before we started recording the show. And I was like, oh, I should remove the interface so it's not in the pictures, but it does it for you. But yeah, it's really funny. It's just kind of silly and it's a bit of fun. Like, I know people have been really critical of it on,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
Twitter.
like I don't really think it took a lot of dev time.
No.
And I don't think the team who makes toys and missions is the team that does class balance. It's not taking away from
No, it's
Foundry
not,
bosses
like,
or
they're not
talent.
like, oh, hey, like, Ian has a coasters. Could you just stop building Blackrock Foundry
Yes.
for a second and just fix this selfie camera thing with static? That's not how it works, guys.
Yeah.
There's like 3,000 people working at Blizzard. It's like, hey, Chad Nervig, we just stop designing monks for a little second and come over here and build this. It's basically a modified screenshot button. Like, it can't have taken much dev time at all. But, and I mean, if you don't like it, don't use it.
Yeah.
Like,
I
don't
really
know what
think
more
it's
to say.
cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. Like, I'm sort of like making sure that my paladins have all got the good chest pieces and good shoulders and
Yeah.
good gloves, because that's all you really see in it is like chest, shoulders, and gloves, so that you've got
Right.
good looking selfies. And but that's not the only thing that we've been able to build and actually test on the PTR this week. We managed to put together the Garrison jukeboxes, and actually a user on Wowhead built one and started sending us images and information on how to do it. And I don't know if it's the same user who put that super helpful comment on the mission, but on the mission, the quest page on ptr.wowhead.com, and again, I'll link all of this in the show notes on the site. They've actually talk you through really precisely how to get all of the pieces that you need. I put one together, and it took me, I would say, about an hour and a half.
That's not bad at all. I was gonna do that, but I just had so many other things to do. But yeah, that's good to know. I mean, it might sound overwhelming for you, the quest, to be like, oh, I have to get 5 items or Draenor, but an hour and a half is not bad.
It was fine, and they drop from specific mobs, so you can actually, like, for example, one of the bits that gave me the most hassle was actually getting into Sketis and Spires of Arak, because I just took every wrong road, like, because it's one of those places where you've got to traverse some mountains to get to it, so I just took every single wrong road. Pro tip, the one that you want is the sort of the easternmost one in Talador. So you want to start in Talador, go east along that mountain range, and then go south once you're in the middle of it there. Not right on the western side. You want to go to the middle and then go south.
I think you can take the Akita's Hovel flight path in Shadow Moon, and then
you can. Yeah,
that's
the
another
other
way to
way.
get to it.
It's harder for Horde, obviously, because then you sort of got to, like, swim and stuff. But that is definitely another way to do it for Alliance. But if you're Horde, you want to just go south from Talador. It's pretty easy if you're level 100. There's no mobs that are going to give you any trouble. And then thanks to the user on Wowhead who posted that super helpful comment, like, you just go and literally farm the one specific mob. So the things that took me the most time to do it were getting into Sketis, because I derped so many times, and then actually just finding a lumbering ancient to kill in Gorgrond. I think with a lot of people going to be wanting this, they may want to slightly up the respawn
I would agree,
rates.
yeah.
The lumbering ancients in Gorgrond, I was there. I eventually ended up, I just started a group because there were so many people running around trying to kill lumbering ancients. I was like, this is silly. Let's just all be in a group and we can all loot the item. But I was there for a good 20 minutes just trying to find a lumbering ancient to kill to get this one item in Gorgrond. But other than that, it was really easy. Like, again, this super helpful user has put up a bunch of videos on Wowhead, so there's a few pieces that you literally just loot off the floor. And this user's put up a ton of videos, like, precisely showing where they are, which just makes it so easy to do. So you just go grab the quest, do that, hand him in. He's kind of, Horde at least, he's kind of round the side of your town hall next to your garrison cache. So she should be really easy to find.
Yeah, Alliance is the same. It's right outside the town hall as well. So, yeah. But what I think is really cool about the jukebox is once you have it constructed, you get a satchel that contains some music for your faction, like for all like their main cities. But then the guy who gives you the quest has all these really funny sounding hints on how to get dozens of other more music soundtracks, and they're all really cool ways to find them, which I love that because we've got things like the Mount tab, which tells you where the sources are. You've got your pets, you've got the toys. It's all really easy to find. But with music, you have to go out in the world and discover, and it's not totally clear with the hints. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Like the one that the hint that he gave me, which I haven't actually acted on yet, because the previous note about being kind of shattered last night, was that you could find music anywhere in Azeroth, I think he said, including on the back of a giant fiery dragon. So I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe I need to go back in LFR Spine of Deathwing to try and get this music track to see if that's the clue. But it's just really fun to have more stuff that sends you off into the world. And I think we had a user talking about, for example, the Argent Tournament one, didn't we?
Yeah, this user left a detailed comment that I think they cost something like 20 or 25 champion seals if you go to the Argent Tournament, and then you get the Argent Tournament soundtrack, which makes sense because, you know, it encourages you to do the dailies in the area and hear the music, and, you know, you buy it from the appropriate vendor. It's not just, oh, I did this daily in my garrison and turned into coins to buy a music roll.
Exactly. And I don't know about other people, but particularly on my EU account, which I've had for a long time, I have a bunch of spare champion seals just kicking around, which I never I just never spent them because it was a number over the number I needed for something, and I was just doing it for fun. And then it's like, oh, so I've got this currency that I'm never ever going to get rid of. So for me at least, it's like, yay, all of this additional extraneous currency that's chilling out in my currency tab. Maybe I can use it to buy music and finally get rid of those little entries in my currency tab. I've
also heard there's some easier ones that are just sort of cool exploration. If you know that little ferry area in Tirisfal Glades in the western part, you can get the Fey Dragon soundtrack by showing up when that event is in progress. So, you know, it's like it's making you go back into the old world and see some really cool stuff that you might not have noticed before, which I think is great.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I always really enjoy it when they do stuff which, like, pushes you back into older content, because it just means that older content gets a little bit of extra life, and you've got a reason to go back and do it again, which is why things like this and raiding with leashes are really, really fun to me. But speaking of all the different music, it's like we planned this. It's like we planned this. It's a really, really neat segue into our Wowhead news segment. Now, obviously, we talk about what we do. Obviously, we have news in the show. We talk about what we've been doing in the past week on Wowhead, and I say we, it's mostly Perk.
And the devs,
And the devs, yeah, my God. But this week, like, we've got some really cool stuff with all of these sounds. So our dev, Auroras Gerard, who also does the Undermine Journal, but Devs of Wowhead is his main job, he found them, didn't he? He found all of the sounds. So we've got them all up on Wowhead. We put them in the news post. And again...
Yeah, we figured out, like, which sound called, like, 6-1 Music Jukebox A... was with every single music roll, so you can actually sort them out and hear the soundtracks that you like with their proper names.
Which is really cool because it allows you to not only listen to all the sounds and be like, oh, actually that one sounds terrible, I hate this one particular music, I'm not going to even bother with that one. But it also allows you to see which ones there are. Because, like, to me, like, with my little clue about the spine of... It sounds like it's pointing me towards the spine of Deathwing. Like, maybe I go through that list and find out that like there isn't a sound that's called anything that even links towards Deathwing. So, I mean, actually there is one, I already checked. But like it allows you to sort of help with the clues. And I'm sure that as more and more users find them, there'll be more and more clues added. But it's just really cool to be able to listen to all the different sounds there and decide what you want to go after and what you don't. Because there's
so it's just right in the post, there's a little play, a pause and a stop button, and yeah, just click in the post for the different sounds you want and you can hear all of them.
Yep, and the Grizzly Hills music is in there. I think a lot of people will be happy to see that. Like Muffinus was tweeting about it, wasn't he? That there was
that was the most requested one.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm just really happy to have it. But that's not all you've been up to this week. There's also been a ton of work, I say this week, since we last spoke about this, which was back last year. You've been doing a ton of work on followers and the associated pages and everything on the site, haven't you?
Yeah, so basically we've always had this great Warlords of Draenor followers guide, and we've always been working on stuff since the beta, and people are still confused about followers, so we try to make things more and more straightforward and keep exposing more data. So the one of the newest things we did is on mission pages, we are showing the mission success chance. So you can input followers to see how well they do. And this even works for the PTR site for new abilities like, Harrison Jones' mentor ability, which turns out raises the level and the item level of other followers. If you want to see what Garona's Master Assassin trait does, how much that increases it, you can see that, all sorts of the profession things. So we have more plans in store for this, but right now you can play around with the missions and enter in followers and abilities and their levels and their item levels to see what the success chance would be. You know, if you're bored at work and you want to start doing mission theory crafting, you can do that now.
Yeah, plan out all your missions when you get home and you can finally put them in. Like, it is a really, really powerful tool, and it just sort of makes life so much easier for the different counters, the different abilities which are within that mission system. We had that's a ton of cool stuff.
Also followers. One more thing with followers. So I think this might have been the week before, but we had so much stuff. So basically, follower pages now show all the abilities that they have the potential to get. So basically that means that a follower of a certain spec has 5 pre-assigned abilities by Blizzard. So even though they get 2, it's like, okay, they've got 2, but there's 3 that they potentially could get if you use like a reroll certificate, or if they were like uncommon and they go up to rare, maybe they get one of those 5 abilities. It's not, oh my god, they can get 200 possible abilities. Right. And that also goes for in followers. So if you're trying to find a follower from the in, if you go to their in page, you can be like, oh, if I search for one of these 5 counters, I'm going to get this follower from the in.
Right.
Or it's like, oh, what other abilities does this in follower have? It's not totally random. So I think that's really useful for people trying to plan out how to like round out their collection, or what to use a reroll certificate on, or, you know, there's just like a lot of things that are useful. And we've also made a new series of filters, which you can find on wowhead.com/followers for all of these things. So if you're like, what spec has the potential to counter group damage in time battle, because there's a mission that I need both of these things for, and I don't know, Blackrock Foundry, you can now do that now, and it will bring all the followers up that have that could counter that.
Yeah, that's a really useful sort of, particularly just having the ability to see what to re-roll. Like, I know that I'm sort of, with my follower collection on what my character that has the best ones, I'm kind of paralyzed by indecision on that a little bit. Because I'm like, oh god, what if I re-roll this one and it's worse, or it's bad? Like, it just allows you to sort of see that and give you an idea of what to do.
It's not like, oh, I need powerful spell, I'll use this re-roll thing, and maybe it'll get, it's like, well, this spec can never get powerful spell.
Yeah, so it allows you to really see, like, oh, okay, this is an obvious thing to do, or this one is like an obvious one to not re-roll, but bother re-rolling that one. But yes, there's a ton of cool stuff going on there. We've still got so much news to get through, and like, we try to keep these shows shorter. We actually managed a 45-minute show last time. That was amazing for us. But yeah, so we obviously had the patch notes yesterday, which was one of the things that kind of stopped us having the time to record yesterday. So we had a bunch of cool highlights from there. They were kind of funny patch notes because they talked about a lot of things without actually saying what the thing is called.
Yeah, so because we did all the research, we found all the links and put them in, but it's like, there is an item from a quest that improves your follower. It's like, well,
yeah, exactly. Well, let's link the item in Wowhead's database, shall we? So some of the highlights, I'm just going to rattle through these kind of quickly. Like, we don't want to spend ages discussing them because see previous note about so much news. But we found out about collecting all heirloom items awards a special mount usable by level 1 characters, which Perk figured out is very, very, like, not 100% confirmed, right? But very, 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 very likely to be the chauffeur chopper.
Yeah, because it's a BOA item, and you have this guy driving you around, and, you know, what other mount could be used by a level 1 if it can't be, you know, like the mount journal. Exactly. And it's an heirloom, so it's like, oh, you get heirlooms, and
makes
you collect them, and you get one.
Yeah, so, I mean, not 100%, I wouldn't take that as 100% confirmed, but it makes a lot of sense that that would be the case. On the topic of heirlooms, we also had new next slot heirlooms available, which I'm personally am very happy about, and they also allow a character to cast a heal once a minute, which does share cooldowns with potions and health stones. But that's a really nice feature, and I know...
and like, my alts don't have all that preparation on them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it's often the case that you're just sort of out questing in your heirlooms and you're like, oh man, I wish I had a health stone or a health pot right now. Like, I know friends who particularly early on have just spent a ton of money on the auction house buying health pots. Yeah. It's like, no, don't do that. Look here. But yeah, so that's a very cool addition. And obviously all of this is within the heirloom collection system, which is now working just like the mounts and the toys. So that is definitely a useful addition. Some world events now sell heirloom tier 2 and tier 3 for currency obtained through the event. So I'm imagining things like the Lunar Festival with the coins that you get, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like, we've previously spoken about holidays and how they used to be really good for alts, and now like other buffs and heirlooms are a lot better. So this you know brings it back and gives you more things to spend your coins on, so the holidays aren't dull and boring.
Yeah, so
and they become useful for alts again. They brought that angle back to them.
For sure, and it's definitely very, very cool. Like, you know, it allows you to just have something to be excited about when a holiday comes around, rather than just be like, oh, I've done all the Lovers in the Air stuff, I don't need this, for example. So that is definitely a great addition. This was an interesting one to me. Tertiary stats, and Perk, as the item queen, I'm sure you'll have something to say about this. Tertiary stats for avoidance, speed, and leech now provide about 4 times as much benefit per stat point. So this is kind of, as something that was very RNG based, and like the clue is in the name, like they're tertiary stats. Right. This was an interesting change in my book. What do you think? What are your take on it?
So I think that people would say things like, oh, you know, Warforged is this item level bonus. Like, this is something that sounds really cool, and I see my stats increase, or, you know, an extra gem socket means that I can get 35 or 50 more of a secondary stat I know is useful, but then it's like, oh, well, I got tertiary and now I run a little faster.
Yes.
So I think they were trying to beef up the tertiary stats so they seemed as exciting and, you know, more competitive to the other RNG options you could get on an item.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's like, it's definitely the case that there was no... I mean, you got, like, with the run speed one is a great example. Like, you got a slight, you could mouse over on your character sheet and see that you actually genuinely were going a teeny tiny bit faster. Yeah. But it wasn't a noticeable benefit. And I think that people want to feel powerful with these things and see the noticeable benefit. Like, you want the leech to almost pop up on your healing log, almost.
Right, exactly.
Like, with a little bit now and then. But it wasn't really doing that for me, at least. But I only have one piece with leech on it, so maybe that's the issue. But that's a pretty cool change. Moving on to garrison-specific stuff, the lumber mill and the trading post no longer require garrison resources to build or upgrade, and as buildings that are designed pretty much exclusively to generate garrison resources, this makes a bunch of sense.
And that's really alt friendly as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, for sure, me too. So then let's skip over this one to go to the Mage Tower. So the Mage Tower now accepts Ogre Waystones as work orders, awarding Apexis crystals and a chance to receive an item that allows instant completion of a mission that's in progress. This is great, like, because I don't know if you have the Mage Towers in your garrison.
No, I don't need to build it.
Yeah. But for me at least, like, excuse me, I have the Mage Tower in one of my garrisons, and I have all my waypoints that I can get. But every time I'm killing ogres, I'm getting these waystones, and I'm just like, well, okay, so, like, I can't build any more waypoints. I'd love to build more waypoints, but I'm at my limit. I don't want to destroy my Mage Tower to stop my bags filling up with ogre waystones, because I want the waypoints, so you know about how I want more waypoints, Blizzard, please. But now that I can turn them to something useful, and this kind of carries on from what we were talking about in last week's show, where they're doing a bunch of stuff that allows you to turn excesses of currency that are currently useless into something that you can actually do something useful with. So awesome, really happy to hear about that. And finally, like, a thing that I'm both happy and sad about is the increase in the item level of gear awarded from completing daily challenge modes. So this, prior to the opening of High Mall, was a good way to get your eye-level 640 gear by doing a challenge mode every day.
Right. Regardless if you got gold or not, it just was do the daily.
Exactly. You just had to get through it. Like, you didn't even have to get bronze, you just had to get it done. Yeah. So it was an easy way, well, I say easy, a relatively straightforward way to do that, as long as you had a decent comp and decently geared and skilled people. But now they've put it up to 660, and, like, my guild is starting to go into heroic raiding, so I don't feel, like, too pressured there, because the item levels dropped from there at 670. Right. But it's a sort of a thing on alts, where now I like on my alts, I'm like, oh man, I should be doing challenge modes.
Right. I mean, if Foundry LFR is 650, and it's meant to be pretty easy, or if, like, LFR is meant to be tourist mode, it's like, well, if challenge modes are harder, people should get more of a reward for doing them.
I completely agree. No, I completely agree. Like, I'm happy about it, because I actually enjoy doing the challenge modes, and I enjoy getting through them, and, like, particularly without the time pressure of, oh, you have to get gold to get this, like we had back in Mr. Pandaria. Yeah. But it's a cool way to award additional gear, and I completely wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying, that LFR, as, like, it's crazy easy in High Mall, and I don't know if we're going to see that same level of easy repeated in Foundry, but that should definitely award something crafting higher item level than one of the hardest types of content in the entire game. So it makes perfect sense. I just like, I have this problem where I feel like if there's a way that I can get gear, I should be doing it. And that's a me problem. That is my problem. That is not Blizzard's problem. But I'm just like, oh man, now I'm going to feel like my priest has to do her challenge mode every day again. But hey, it's all good. It'll make me a better priest. So moving on from our patch note highlights, there's been some huge changes to the professions, and now these are actually things that we decided against putting in the earlier show this week in order to focus on the sort of more like shiny stuff, I guess. Right. But they're building up, and we have to talk about them before this gets completely out of control. So there's been some really, really huge alchemy updates. Transmutes. They've returned!
Yay! I am really happy about that, especially the one for Savage Blood.
Oh my god, yes. The Savage Blood one is a huge change, and I'm so happy because like I really liked that element of alchemy, and now that, you know, it's becoming more useful again, particularly with the Savage Blood. And yes, finally, alchemists, again, we're good, we're back. There's also some epic trinkets becoming available from alchemy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't totally make sense how most other professions had an epic item that they could sell or at least equip, like, you know, engineering goggles, and alchemy didn't have anything. But there is a series of trinkets now that you buy the recipe at your alchemy vendor, and it creates a trinket that doubles as a philosopher's stone, and it's the, you know, 640, you know, variations going all the way up. So there's 4 stages of it.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense because, like, you were able to craft, and I think it was like 620, 615-ish or so. You were able to craft one of those, but then you weren't able to craft anything higher level. And I was a bit like, well, I made it for my paladin, and it was like, okay, this is a decent trinket. It'll do for now. But it was just like, okay, and so all of my other professions have all this awesome 640 gear, hint, hint, like, where's my trinket? So this makes perfect sense. We're also seeing, and this is obviously even more general, not just for alchemy, that the stage 4 crafted boost item is in, which allows it a full 10 item levels up from the original, which is 650
so the
gear.
armor is 680 and weapons are 670.
Yeah, it's 650.
And that's coming for everything to keep up with Foundry in 6.1.
Which is great. And like, I know that a lot of people were worrying that they wouldn't be continuing to boost the potential item level of crafted gear with the raid tiers. So this is a really clear sign that actually the continuing boosting of crafted gear will make it viable all the way through the expansion, which I think that people who are crafting are going to be, like, I personally am super happy about that. Because I was, like, it always happens in previous expansions, like, you craft the first, like, tier, and then it just is like, okay, so if you want some tier 1 gear when we're on tier 3 of this expansion, then carry on, I guess. But
I know people always really like how the stage gear has a new model, and we haven't seen any new models yet, but, you know, we'll definitely let you know if we see, like, the crazy elaborate stage 4 weapon.
Yeah, it's gonna have, like, flashing lights and, like, gems everywhere. It's gonna be awesome. So our followers now are actually gaining XP when they're doing work orders.
Yay. Very good change.
That's a good change, definitely. And we've got some big changes to fishing. So first up, there's some 125 stat food that actually requires fish. So this kind of pulls fishing back into the limelight a little bit, right?
It's relevant again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now you just buy the recipes from the chef in your garrison, and they cost 10 gold.
Right.
And they only make one serving of fish as one serving of food, as opposed to all the other Warlords fish, which make multiple servings, but it is the best possible food.
That is really good, yeah, and that's better than the Savage Feasts even at the moment.
Yeah, 25 stats more.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see the Savage Feast boosted up as well, but...
Right. But plus you can make it for a certain stat, as opposed to being like, well, I'm going to take this piece of gear off so I get this stat.
Yeah, let me just unequip all my gear so that I have the right stat levels so I can eat the Savage Feast, so that's really, really good. Yeah. But then we've got some slightly less good news for fishing, for alts particularly, where they've actually changed the filleting methodology, and I was a bit miffed about this, because for the fishing dailies where you have to get the eggs, what I tend to do is if I have, like, on a Sunday evening, you know, I've got my cup of tea, I've got my slippers on, I'll take my laptop and I'll go sit in front of the TV and I'll watch TV and I'll just fish, and I'll turn the sound effects right up so I don't miss the little noise, and I'll just sit there and I'll fish for hours, like just watch TV, talk to friends, fish, and then I will fillet them when I need the eggs. So now it's like, okay, so this means that in order to do my garrison fishing daily, I actually have to fish those fish up at that time. And it's a bit annoying. Exactly. So it's sort of ruined my garrison fishing daily methodology slightly, but it's also much worse for alts. So you can't send the whole fish. It fillets automatically when you loot it, basically.
Right.
And you can't send the whole fish to other people for the quests. So That's a little bit tiresome. Like I saw Rigarius was tweeting about how, oh yeah, but having like millions of stacks of fish in your bag or your bank is not good gameplay. It's like, sure, that is an irritation, but
yeah.
I would rather maintain the level of control that allows me to do things like fish in my slippers on a Sunday.
Plus, I mean, if they want things with alts to be more friendly, it seems that this could set things back. Like, why do I want to finish on this alt if it's hard and difficult? And
yeah, exactly. Well, like, you know, I know a lot of people in my guild at least have a fishing alt who they do all their fishing on, who's like got maxed out fishing, whereas they then send it to their main who gets other stuff. But it's a weird choice, and maybe it's something that will be reverted if people are unimpressed about it.
Not in the notes, but I was, in the patch notes, they were saying that enormous players can get enormous fish at low-level fishing levels.
Right.
So I suppose that does balance it out. Like, if you're an alt, you can get a fish that has a lot of stuff. But I think that there's still that control element that you're missing now from this new system.
Yeah, I completely agree. I had actually forgotten about the enormous fish change as well. Yeah, so really good point. But in other fishing unfriendly news, they've now changed it so that you can't get fish up bait in your garrison unless you have. You still can't fish it up with Nat at level 3 in the level 3 fishing shack. I can't talk all of a sudden. So you can't fish it up anymore. The only way you can get bait in your garrison is by having Nat Pagel in your level 3 fishing shack, and then you can buy it directly from him.
Yeah, you ask him for a buff, and you specify what fish you want, and he just casts it on you.
So there's no actual gold money. I don't have a level 3 fishing shack, can you tell? So there's no actual gold cost to it.
Yeah, from what screenshots that Sarah's been sending me, she just has the dialogue options from what I've seen.
Okay, well that's cool. So at least there's no gold cost there. But yeah, it kind of requires you to either have a level 3 fishing shack and Nat Pagel, or to go out into the world to get the bait, or to, I guess, like you can buy bait on the auction house. But to me, that's a bit like, this is slightly irritating, particularly coupled with
I don't think you can buy bait on the auction house. I think they changed it so it has a duration. So
you can't buy
you're exploring the world.
I bought a ton of bait on the auction house. I'm really happy about that. Then I'm really glad I got in before they changed that. But yeah, so there's definitely a case of now you have to go out in the world to get bait if you want it, which is... I'm annoyed by that. I liked the sort of specificity of being like, okay, I'm going to fish for sea scorpion because I need some like cheapo tank food.
Right.
So I'm going to put the sea scorpion bait, which I bought on the auction house, on, and then I can fish and like pretty much, although my fishing skill is not that high on this because obviously US account and of all the things to level, it's like, why have I now lost that ability of control? I think it's always the case, though, when you have something and take it away, that people are like, oh, QQ, no fair. Whereas perhaps it was breaking the game in some way that we're not totally aware of.
There is a good change, though, for high-level anglers. Lunker are easier to get from pool. So basically, I just got Nat, and I'm like, I'm going to fish up some lunkers, and I haven't found any yet because the PTR hit, but I just was, catching and just not finding anything. So basically, if you fish from a pool now and you have Nat Pagel who allows you to catch lunkers, there's a higher chance you will get a lunker from a pool, which can then be turned in for a coin, for mounts or pets. And the chance to get a lunker also increases based on your fishing skill.
Right.
So if you, load things up with a fishing pole that has like an enchantment on it, and you've got the best lures, and you've got the hat, and you've got the boots, and you have everything, your chance will go up beyond 700 skill.
That's
to get a lunker. So I'm excited about that because I just got to the place where I'm starting the grind, and it didn't seem very fun.
Yeah, definitely. No, the grindy stuff, like particularly with the RNG elements of fishing, is not very fun. Like controlling RNG is often the fun here, and that kind of brings us on to some of the archaeology updates which we've seen. So if you have any skill at all in archaeology, and I can confirm as someone whose paladin has one skill in archaeology that it is any skill, you just have to have learned it. You'll start unlocking these exploration missions, and they're follower missions. They're normally like one follower. I've seen one so far that's more than one, but
you don't have to be level 100. There's some low level ones.
Yeah, so there's a good variety of these missions. They're not rare. They're all over the place. Honestly, like I seem to be having like of all the characters I put over to the PTR, none of them has fewer than like 2 or 3 archaeology missions in their log. And it could of course be that this is PTR and that's because they're testing them, but it's definitely the case that they are not rare at all. So they reward a mixture of things. They reward fragments, they reward keystones, and various
like the higher level ones have like the ability rerolling item for followers, the traits one, some of the cooler things. But when we were talking, it's if you don't want to be flying around or dealing with like RNG dig sites, you can just send your follower on a mission and he will return with a pile of fragments. So it's not like, oh, I'm on this hill site and it's terrible and this boar is killing me and now I fell off the hill and I can't fly back up.
I know, I'm so bad. Like, the amount of times, particularly in Spires of Arak, which is becoming my most hated zone without flying very, very quickly, you'll be surveying and, you know, you've got your survey and I'm still using Archaeology Helper to get, like, the little cones on the ground. And, like, you'll survey. It's like, there's a hill, there's a freaking giant mountain here. Oh, my goodness. So I have to go through this or, like, and then you have to go round and up and over and down. And then you're like, oh, dig it. And I finally found it 20 minutes later of like climbing and frustration. So yeah, I'm super happy to have this like ability to get stuff without going out into the world. And there seem to be a lot of missions that award the keystones as well, which allows you to finish the incomplete items, which is a really, really cool thing. So definitely nice to see some more RNG reducing things coming through follower missions, even if fishing has had some RNG increases.
One cool thing I just realized was that the achievement for getting Harrison Jones requires you to complete a bunch of exploration missions. So there's a few other components you have to do, but you have to complete a bunch of exploration-related things to get him, which, you know, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty
Harrison
cool.
Jones comes with the really awesome mentor ability, which we talked about before, and also the treasure hunter, which increases the amount of gold you get from missions.
Yes. As a poor person, I'm super happy about that. But yeah, so that's pretty much what we've got for the Garrison side of things. Obviously, there's been a ton of updates, but we only have so much show. And finally, for this week, Foundry is imminent. It's very imminent. I'm going to look at my calendar, which is over here. And hopefully it's not blocking perk. Hooray. So it is a week and 3 days away. So wow, that's really, really soon. But it's open on the PTR this weekend. And our awesome raid and dungeon guide writer, Dayani, who was on the show for the healing special, has actually been writing some fantastic guides. And I'm assuming they're not up on the site right now, Perk, because it's 10 a.m. Eastern. So they haven't been posted just yet. But by the time you see this on the site, they will have been there for a day. So again, I'm going to link them in the bit below the show. And Dayani rates fantastic guides, really, really in-depth, detailed, but easy to read and understand. So look forward to those. Keep an eye out for those Foundry guides. And obviously, as soon as anything more starts coming out about the stuff in Foundry, bosses, anything that's different, any new models, etc., we will be all over that with our data mining from our amazing devs. But yeah, so Dayani's guides are coming.
Yep. So, you know, we wanted to get the first wing out, you know, pretty early because that's what the most people will be doing. But, you know, by the time Foundry goes live, we'll definitely have all of the guides up and we'll be making news posts when we have the guides for the later wings up as well. And if you want to test them on the PTR, you know, use our guides.
Definitely.
I know Dayani will be running them to make sure that nothing has changed super much. We're seeing if a screenshot could be better. So, you know, they're awesome and accurate and detailed without being overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. They really are very good, guys. She's just managed to hit that line between like, oh, hang on, what do I do here? And actually, this is too much information. Please stop telling me stuff. Like, she's really, really good with that. And obviously, also, we will we have the method guides for High Mall, which are still continuing to roll out, and we will have those coming for Blackrock Foundry as well shortly after Method finishes their progression through Mythic. So if you're looking for real high, top level, super in-depth, super strategic guides, obviously Method, who are one of the world's top guilds, will be providing us with those for Foundry when the time is right.
Yeah, they're great if you want to be like, oh, you know, how far can I get through completing everything in High Mall before Foundry hits? You know, like the head of the curve and cutting edge, they're not going away in 6.1, but just, you know, for personal pride, if you want to be like, our guild got all this done before we got better Foundry gear, you know, check out the method guides that we have for the mythic bosses.
Definitely, they're all right there. So yeah, really good stuff. It's exciting, it's soon, and a ton of information. Okay, that's about all from us this week. So thank you so much for joining us as ever, and you can follow me on Twitter on Olivia D. Grace. I finally learned what side it's on. You can follow Perk on Twitter on Perculia. It's right there above her screen. You can follow Wowhead on Wowhead, and as ever, you can find all of the information we've talked about today linked below the video down there on wowhead.com, and we've everything that you need to know. PTR and live are both there. Don't forget to hit that little toggler to the left-hand side of the search bar on Wowhead if you want to look at the PTR specific stuff. And yeah, join us again next. I guess we'll be doing a show next Friday and posting it next Saturday. Again, apologies for the slightly diminished quality of this show. As you can see from the room around me, I'm in the UK still. My internet kind of sucks here. It's really kind of bad. And the computer that I'm recording and editing on is not as powerful as the one I have back in the States. We've only got another couple of weeks of it though. Only another couple of weeks of choppy perk and lower quality. So I hope it's not completely ruined your enjoyment of the show and that you'll stick with us through a slightly patchy production quality phase. And we will be back on next Saturday on the site. Again, not live streaming. So again, sorry about that. My internet is really bad here. I can't express to you. It's 0.7 upload. 0.7 of a meg.
She turns up everything on the site, everything else just
I literally I go through and I disable, I even disable Chrome, I disable literally everything to try and make my internet better, and there's no way we could live stream this while I'm here in the UK, so apologies for that, but we will be back up live streaming the week commencing the 9th of February. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.